Hey, what's up? I'm back, motherfuckers. Are y'all ready to hear some more of my bullshit? All right. Got my recording going. Here we go. This is El Jefe reading Shattered Worlds Day 1. That's my first novel, but I'm sure you know that by now. I'm going to just get right into it. Portillion. Oh, wait. Book 3, Chapter 33. Portillion. Pick him up. The cold voice commanded his underlings. Portillion felt the familiar pain under his arms as they hoisted him to his feet. Blasts of agony shuddered through his ribs, hips, and ankles, the effects of long stretches of sleeping in awkward positions, as well as the repeated beatings. Spittle coated his face under the hood. Someone yanked it off. Brilliant white light hurt his eyes and made it impossible to make out the man's features. Portillion struggled to keep his head up. He'd been punished for that mistake before. The man spoke without emotion. You look terrible. Are they feeding you? Yes, sir. Good. We wouldn't want you to die on us. What Portillion couldn't say was that the food was making him terribly ill. It was usually rotten in places and nearly impossible to keep down. Despite that, he had done his best to eat it as quickly as possible. He'd gotten used to them pulling it away before he'd been able to finish. The guards seemed to delight in watching him scarf it down like an animal. No, sir. Tell me, Portillion, what do you think we will do with you once you've told us the truth? Portillion crafted his words carefully. I don't know, sir. I trust it will be fair. A guard smacked him hard. He must have been wearing some sort of gauntlet or knuckle duster. They changed their implements of torture seemingly at random. He'd gotten used to beatings at random times. They seemed to have no relation to whether he behaved the way they wanted him to or not. Indeed. Most likely you'll be shot. Portillion winced as the man paced back and forth in front of him. A trickle of blood slowly dripped down the aching wizard's cheek. Tell me again, who are you delivering the statue to? The Brothers of Light, sir. The Brothers of Light. And who put you in touch with them? My contact within the orders, sir. Portillion waited for the blow. It didn't come. And that person's name? Portillion screwed up his face, preparing for the inevitable smack. It didn't come. What? What is happening? Chapter 34. Ayana. The party dragged on for what seemed like hours. At one point, Ayana broke away from a conversation with a rotund senator, only to be accosted by 3 former classmates who were obsessed with the chancellor's newest wig. She barely escaped to the balcony before they'd moved on to petticoat trends or some other meaningless nonsense. Watch it, Ayana. Don't get high and mighty. The air was bracing but felt good against her sweat-drenched skin. She stood leaning against the railing for a few minutes, trying her best to relax. The moon was out, and the garden glowed in its reflected radiance. A beautiful evening, wouldn't you say? Ayana looked to her left. An elegant older gentleman in a long blue jacket was standing there, just a few feet away. She wasn't sure how he'd gotten so close without her detecting. Was he a wizard? She felt the power of the goddess flow into her. Her vision increased, her magical senses heightened. If he was employing magical means to obscure his movement, she couldn't detect any trace. It is. She studied him, taking note of his features. Ponderous jowls, sparkling blue eyes, long gray mustache, and liver-spotted hands. He seemed kindly, if a bit strange. He extended one of those hands, a heavy emerald signet ring dwarfing his slender middle finger. Ayana surrounded herself with a protection spell and shook it. His hand was warm despite the chill in the air. She was immediately embarrassed to see goosebumps clearly visible on her skin. My name is Durian. I am a friend of your mother's. He smiled, revealing a mouth full of capped and missing teeth. She racked her brain, but couldn't recall anyone with that name. I'm sorry, I haven't heard her speak of you. He nodded. Not surprising. I've only just returned to Calustria. Your mother and I separated long before your birth. She was startled. This man and her mother? He wasn't ugly exactly, but he was nothing like her father. He smiled again. I had more hair back then. Time has been hard on this old vessel, and I am a wee bit older than your mother. But we were quite close once upon a star. Fuck. I love Ayana's mom, dude. She's the worst. She's like if my mom had power. I mean, like real galactic power. Obviously, as a senior citizen, she has some. Chapter 35. Sophris. Something was very wrong. A pall had descended over the building housing Portillion. The night was cool and bright, the ground fresh from a brief driving rain, and insects were chirping loudly. Sophris had seen a tall, crisply dressed man, accompanied by 3 soldiers, enter the building. Sophris was ready to go in once the man and his detail left. Had left? I'm not sure. Once the man and his detail had left. A few minutes later, a feeling hit him, one of intense cruelty, something dark and nasty raging against the light. Different from Creel or the necrotic, deeper, older, thick with long centuries of violent action. It couldn't be the tall man. LaCroix coming back on me. It couldn't be the tall man. He was evil, of course, but relatively simple spiritually. No, this was something much worse. For a moment, Sophris wondered if it was coming from the field of corpses behind the compound. But those were relatively recent, piled up only in the last few years. He'd expect some bit of haunting activity there, but nothing like this. This energy, whatever it was not human. Sophris felt the ground shudder, heard a scream from within the building. Then all was silent. He sensed Portilion's conscience immediately. He sensed Portilion's consciousness immediately. Portilion, I'm here. Portilion, I'm here. Are you hurt? Sophris, what are you doing here? I've come to return you to the ship. Can you walk? I think so. What of your captors? I cannot feel their spirits. They're dead. All of them? I think so. I felt a terrible power just before I lost their signatures. It felt intensely evil. Portilion didn't respond. Sophris didn't push it. He made his way gingerly to the door and tried the handle. It was locked. Okay, so damn. So the last Portillion chapter I read was supposed to go before the weird interaction with the demon. So cuz yeah, it's supposed to go directly from like what the fuck's going on with Portillion to uh whatever that was. I think or maybe it comes after this. But that doesn't really make sense. It should go after that one. Okay. Why don't I read that one and call that chapter 35? And then Sophris will be chapter 30. Imagine this one came before that one. Please, I can't hear anything. Are you still there? Portillion had dropped to his knees. His manacles and leg irons had been removed for the torture session, so he was able to crawl across the thick cement floor. His fingers hit a pool of thick, warm liquid. He couldn't see it, but he could smell it. It was fresh blood, still rippling from wherever it had poured. He leaned back onto his haunches and started undoing the knot holding the hood over his head. He heard a gurgling by the door. Someone was still alive. He half crawled, half stumbled in the direction of the noise. The person was spitting, trying to catch their breath. As Portillion reached him, he finally managed to yank off his hood. LaCroix burps rumbling under there. The light was dim, but he could see just about everything. The man at the door was torn from collarbone to groin. Ribbons of flesh and intestine splayed out around him in a delicate pattern, as if his killer had turned his innards into abstract art. The man was trying to turn onto his side, but the best he could do was turn his head. The spittle coming from his lips was mostly blood. Portillion knelt at his side, wishing he could staunch the flow of blood. He knew a spell to knit up wounds, but it required a pinch of oregano and a sprig of mint. They could be replaced with a complex incantation, but he couldn't bring it to mind. He felt useless. All he could do was whisper to the man and hold him as he slipped to the other side. It happened quickly. After the man rattled into death, Portillion took in his surroundings. 3 guards were dead, all killed in similar ways. The colonel, however, was hanging from the center beam, his guts stretched and tied off to all 4 corners of the room. A pile of organ meat lay beneath him. His service, damn it, fucking LaCroix. I got normal water here. A pile of organ meat lay beneath him, his service pistol resting unbloodied just outside the circle of gore. Whatever had killed these men hadn't just wanted to end their lives. It had taken a personal thrill in their complete destruction. Okay. Alrighty. So that should do it there. So I'll probably read the first chapter again next time, just so you get a sense of the continuity. But yeah, Portillion apparently made a deal with the devil, and then some shit happens. He's looking around, and then Sophros talks to him. So whatever. Come on back, you hear? Peace. I always say that. Peace.